Well, we were KFWB. So the next station was KEWB in San Francisco. The next one after that was KDWB in Minneapolis. Well, we had a particular problem in Minneapolis in that they were at 63 on the dial, all by themselves in there. And the other radio stations were all at 1,000 or above. So no one ever came down to that part of the audio, of the dial. So we had to figure out a way to get them down there. And what are we going to do? I mean, nobody even knew the radio station was there. So Don French, I'd hired a fellow by the name of Don French, who I was a DJ with in San Antonio, working for McClendon years and years ago. And I'd hired Don to be our program director. And I had to bring him and teach him about the color radio thing and so on. And so we were about to open, but how are we going to get people down there? And we were just thinking of, what could we do? And Don remembered what he thought was one of the most successful advertising campaigns ever. And it was this guy who was selling something called Cerutan. Now, Cerutan is nature's, spelled backwards, and what Cerutan does for you, it makes you regular. So anyway, it was very, very successful. And Don said, we got to try to find that guy and have him talk about our station, and blah, 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 blah. And have him come down there because that's where, and whatever we wanted to say, get him to say. Think we could find him? Yeah, okay, we looked him up and found him. And he was some kind of a pitchman at a carnival or something. And, but he agreed to do it. And so we wrote these spots. And I had this line, 63, that's easy to remember, which is what we wanted them, everybody in Minneapolis and St. Paul to remember, that there was another place on the dial. So we had him record these spots. Okay, so we went to an ad agency and we told them that we had this guy and wanted to create these spots. The only thing was they had to make certain that all the broadcasts of all the spots were done at exactly the same time on every radio station in the Twin Cities. And they said they could arrange that, probably a very premium charge, but they could get it done, they were sure. Okay, so we had him come on the air and talk about the way to relieve ennui. And ennui, of course, means you have nothing to do, your life is listless, you're staring at the walls all day, and nothing makes you happy, and that sort of thing. And to relieve ennui, all you need is Formula 63. And we're giving it away. And we found out what was the biggest drug chain in Minneapolis. And they were giving it away the next day, all day long. Come in and get your free sample of Formula 63. And I promise you this, the next day you'll be in a much better mood than you are today. Formula 63, guaranteed to relieve ennui. Well, okay. Now then, the agency had to put these in every drugstore in this chain, convince them that they wanted this display when they walked in of all these little bottles of Formula 63. So people came in and they bought these bottles and they opened them up and it wasn't a bottle in there at all. It was a little message that said, change your radio to 63. There's a lot of stuff going on down there. Tune in there for just a few minutes and you'll realize how much a happier person you'll be because we're going to make you laugh. We're going to make you blah, 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 blah. And this thing, it wasn't that long, but it was just a little message. And so that's the whole point, was to get them down to that part of the dial. Well, it was working great as far as we were concerned, until finally WCCO, the powerhouse, found out what this was all about. People started calling him and saying, you realize they're calling, telling you to tune into another radio station. What? So they went down and got a few bottles and found this out. And of course they dropped it and told everybody, went on the air to tell people about this facade, this thing. And he says, don't go down there. And it was in the newspapers. And it was, you could not buy that kind of promotion because every newspaper, how all the radio stations had fallen for this, you know, and had taken the spots off the air and so forth, except for one. And there was a station called KCOW, KCOW, which played country music. And we had bought 3 days worth of spots on their stations. And we said, take them off, they give you your money back. And they said, no, sir, we're going to keep them there. And so they kept them there, and they didn't take their spots off. So anyway, that was Formula 63. That was probably one of the best promotions we ever did, because the way it worked, you know, we got advertising we would never have dreamed of.